Okay, good morning, grade sevens. Hope you're all doing well and keeping up with the lockdown regulations. For today's geography lesson, we're going to look at plate tectonics. As discussed previously in last week's lesson, we spoke about the Earth's crust. That's the most outer layer of the Earth. So the plate tectonics are essentially found within the crust. But before we do that, I'm just going to pop up the memorandum for last week's lesson. So your teacher can pause here and you can quickly mark. Before your teacher pauses, just listen up for the labeling sketch question number 1. It's very important here. All labels needed to be present, as well as the heading, anything in the line of the structure of the Earth. You could have said the cross section of the Earth, layers of the Earth. Any of that I would accept, but your best answer would be structure of the Earth. And then for number 2, those are your 2 definitions straight from your textbook. And then for number 3, I provided you with a paragraph with letters. I think it's A to H, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong. But I rewrote the paragraph, and the answers in green are your answers. You did not need to rewrite the paragraph, just the answers in green. But I know some classes prefer to write out the paragraph, so you can pause here and carry on. Then for today's lesson, I'm going to refer to pages 24 to 25 in your textbook. Before we carry on, there's a bit of terminology we need to go through. The first word is convection. So convection is the flow of liquid or gas from a hot region to a cooler one. You'll hear this word straight through in high school of geography and biology going forward, or rather life sciences. Convection is always from a high concentration to a low concentration. So in this case, it's a flow of liquid or gas from a hot region to a cooler one. Then diverge means to move apart, converge together, and tectonics is relating to the forces that cause movement on the Earth's crust. So just to read on the right-hand side, just a summary of page 24. Earth's crust is broken into sections called plates, not the plates that you find in your kitchen cupboard, please. The Earth's core generates immense heat, and this heated magma rises inside the mantle, and convection currents form, and we'll speak about that after the slide. These currents then move the plates. So here's where it's very important. When there's divergence near the crust, then the plates will move apart, so a crack will be visible. If there's convergence near the crust, then the plates will move towards one another. And if you take your hands and push them against one another, eventually one hand will slip over the other. And that's what convergence does. So the movement of plates and activity inside the Earth is called plate tectonics. Very important definition as well. NB, very important, earthquakes and volcanoes are a result of plate tectonics. So you're going to see going forward now, we've discussed the structure of the Earth. Now I'm focusing on plate tectonics. And now plate tectonics and the movement thereof causes earthquakes and volcanoes. So this is a follow-up module if you think about that way. So I wrote there just those last 2 bullets. The line along with 2 plates meet is called the plate boundary. And if you look at the image on the left of the screen, you'll see the world map there with all the plate boundaries that we have visible. So in movies, you'll notice there's always, and in the news as well, there's always volcanoes, tsunamis, earthquakes in Asia and certain parts of the world. But you'll see we very rarely see that in South Africa. And I want you to study that picture and think to yourself why there won't be any earthquakes or so close to South Africa. Because if you look at our continent being here, our African plate is very far. The plate boundary is very far from South Africa. So yes, we have experienced earthquakes in the past, and we'll go into that later and how that works. But the chances of volcanoes, earthquakes, and tsunamis occurring in South Africa is very, very low. Then I spoke previously now about the convection currents. Here's an image thereof. It's also in your textbook. Don't stress too much. I'll not ask you to sketch this, but do familiarize yourself with the labels. So I'm just showing here. So when two plates move apart, right, that's called divergence, and that causes a crack to open. So here's then where a volcano will erupt upward, right, or even can cause an earthquake or such. And this is where the heated material in the mantle, so in other words, the magma will rise up and then cause a volcano. Here, I've got an example of convergence. That's when two plates are pressed against one another. And I always use the analogy of popping a pimple on your skin. Because if you press your skin together, one point will actually reach upward. So that's where mountain ridges and trenches and such are formed. And you can see here the heat and magma is then pushed downwards. Right, and we're going to speak about transformation soon as well. Then the three plate movements. This is also in your textbook on page 25. So I've spoken about these words. A divergent movement, or we speak of divergence. A convergent movement, or convergence. And then a transformation, or transform movement. So let us go through these. Divergent splits away from one another. Convergence comes toward one another, and transformation, both plates move in opposite direction. Right, so I wrote there in orange block, it's very important that you can explain each type of movement. So they got the 3 bullets on page 25, as well as be able to sketch. And you'll see in the activity that the first question is actually sketching the 3 plate movements. So when I ask you to do this, it doesn't have to be in depth like this. The main thing I look at is the crust with the 2 black arrows, or these blue arrows at top. And then I want to see an upward movement in the middle. Those are the main things I look at. For convergence, I need to see that the one plate crust moves downward and the one upwards, with the 2 arrows going towards one another and a ridge forming in the middle. With transformation, very simple, I need to see that the 2 blocks are moving away from one another. And that's basically how you are required to sketch those. So for today's activity, you have to read through page 24 and 25. At the top of a new page, you must write the following heading as seen on the board. After you've done that, you can paste in the activity that your teacher has supplied you. It's a very straightforward activity. The first question, if I'm not mistaken, are the 3 sketches, and then just a few theory questions. For your sketches, you know you can do it in black fine line or black pen with your labels. Print block letters, please. But the actual sketch needs to be done in pencil, but you may use color as well. And you guys know, if there are any queries regarding geography or history, you can just pop me an email. My email is in the printed worksheet for the learners at home. Right, I wish you guys all the best and study hard. All right, bye-bye.